So hello, everybody. I'm Krista Liggett, the Heritage Policy and Designations Advisor with the Heritage Conservation Branch at the Ministry of Parks, Culture and Sport. So welcome to the first day of our 2025 Heritage Webinar Series. We hope you enjoy these presentations that we have this year, and it's nice to see a mix of people that have attended in the past and new people, so it's great. So before we start, I want to acknowledge that Regina, where I'm located today, is in Treaty 4 territory, which is the traditional land of the Cree and the Saulteaux, Nakota, Dakota, and Lakota, and home of the Métis. We make these land acknowledgements out of respect and as an act of reconciliation to those whose land we use and share. The webinars are an opportunity to learn about some interesting historic places around the province, the work that individuals, organizations, and communities have done to preserve them. But not just preserve them. The historic places we'll hear about are still serving their owners, their communities, in a variety of important ways. As the title of our webinar series implies, historic places are important not only for connecting us with our past, but also for the contributions they continue to make today. There are real social, cultural, economic, and even environmental benefits to conserving and continuing to use and engage with these places. We'll be seeing examples of that throughout these presentations. Today, we'll hear about the work two communities are doing to save and reuse historic buildings in their communities. And these two in particular had sat vacant for quite some time. So it's exciting to hear about the new work being done, and that has been completed. There will be time for questions at the end of the hour. So I'll ask you to hold your questions until then. And you can also just pop your questions in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. So I'll ask that everyone just mute your microphones, turn off your cameras if you're not the presenters today. Presenters, of course, you can leave yours on. So our first presenter is Kent Karemaker, who is the owner of the Grand Hotel in Shaunavon. Kent has a passion for restoring historic buildings. He completed a restoration of a historic home in Frontier and is also working on another historic home in Shaunavon as well as the hotel. So Kent is going to tell us about his journey with the Grand Hotel. And so Kent, I will turn things over. I will stop sharing this. And
Sounds
I
good. Thank you.
will turn things over too. Great.
Sounds good. Some of you may know me. I have a fairly active social media where I document my restoration. My story in a nutshell started actually in British Columbia. I was in Victoria working as a public affairs officer, and during COVID with mental health and needed to get out of the city, and thought, well, where could I go where there's nobody? And so that was Frontier, Saskatchewan. So before getting kind of bored with life again, and I needed something huge, some big project. So that was the Grand Hotel. So I'm going to share a presentation here with you. It's mostly just pictures of the hotel as it was and as it sits and as it will hopefully be. Let me just make sure I find the right thing here. Share. I don't know if somebody's able to confirm that that's the right, there's a screen popping up.
Yep. It's Krista here, Kent. I see
black.
Come up. It's black right now. Yep.
All right, super. Well, let's maximize that again. Oh, wrong slides. Okay, so we're going to actually watch this instead. No, I'm just kidding. This is a joke. This is just a icebreaker. We used to do this back in the business, break the ice a little bit. Please stand by. We'll get this loaded here and restart. Yes, the Grand Hotel. So here's a very early picture of the Grand Hotel. It's there's four buildings there. It's the second big one on the right there. You can see that it says Grand Hotel at the front. There's really no difference to the building as it looks in this picture, probably in the 30s by the looks of the cars versus today. So one of the neat little features about it. So this was the hotel as I bought it. In fact, this is prior to me having purchased the building. I found out about it on my way back to BC, and I had a bit of communication with the previous owner over the winter as I was sort of Saskatchewan full time. So this was one of the very few through that winter, just imagining the possibilities and the potential. All the windows are the original windows in this hotel. Here again is how it looked when I first bought it. The beautiful thing is the majority of the woodwork inside is unpainted, and it's all still in place. The building itself was built in 1929 as a hotel, and it opened about 1 month before the start of the Great Depression, the stock market crash of 29. So not a very good time to be investing in tourism or hotels, probably in rural Saskatchewan. And as the hotel saw very little use during its time. Before eventually closing completely in 1981 when the boiler packed it in. And at that point, that was it. So up until now, nearly 45 years later, the building has been sitting empty. What's amazing about that is the fact that because it sat empty for so long, it's basically survived untouched. As every light fixture original to the building, all of the wall sinks, all of the radiators, the original boiler system, all the original steam laundry equipment, and little touches like this. This would have been an original tie for the blinds, and most of the windows still have those in place. Things like many years ago. I peeked below the linoleum. You can see gleaming hardwood floors. It's the same state in most of the rooms. A lot of people lament that they would put lino on these hardwood floors, but I'm so thankful they did, because you can see from the state of the ceiling, there's cracking and that sort of thing. It really protected these floors from not only the weight of plaster, but water damage as well. There's one of the original light fixtures that I mentioned. There are, I think I found 40 something of them. There's more light fixtures than I have need for, and I've restored every single one at this point. Little nuanced features like this, the original set of keys on their original whatever key holder thing that I imagine he would have had strapped on his belt, the previous hotel owner, through all of those years needing to access different rooms. Scary shot down the hallway. I took this picture just after I had made the decision to buy it. I had fully intended to buy it until I first saw it in person, and then the scope of the project, and the entire time I was being toured around, I was just saying no, 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 this is way too much. Until about 2 minutes after I left, and then I said, you know what, I don't care. I'm just gonna. So we made the deal, and then that was it. So this is the dungeon. No, it's not a dungeon. This is the door, just to show you just how untouched it is. You can see the amount of cobwebs. I don't even know the last time that door would have been opened. I'm fortunate that the structure itself, so original, looks like there's a bunch of other stuff in there too, but I have all the original storm windows that go to the building. When I went around and started replacing broken windows, I counted 32 panes of glass that were replaced. And I did that after I'd replaced the roof. I'll show you pictures of that in a few minutes here. Another shot from the massive basement. Filthy down there, but it's very solid, and it looks as though it's never been wet. All the cardboard boxes that are on the ground show no signs of water damage. So if you look closely, you can see some treasures like an old vintage stove and that sort of thing. Many of these things will be repurposed and like this here, a steam powered steam press, basically for originally would have been for sheets and that sort of thing. They did all their laundry in the basement, and so items like this, a lot of these items will be moved upstairs. I plan on doing a small museum. Sort of shows the boiler system. It's a case system. Often, apparently, these were used in tractors and various farm equipment and that sort of thing back in the day. While it sits there, and it will sit there, and I'm gonna, keep it as a novelty item, I'm going to be using, obviously, a new boiler system and bypass. So I do hope to use the original radiator. Some laundry stuff that is sitting there to go through. The original work of the original door handles, and all kinds of things to go through. Massive amount of sinks. Every room has a wall sink, which will be kept and repurposed, restored to original. Some of these are used. A number of these sinks look to be, again, new old stock. The back of the building in here, as you can see, all the boards on the windows still at that point. I spent quite a long time ripping boards off and replacing glass and reglazing windows. This is kind of, initially I thought, well, I'll live in this hotel while I restore it, until realizing just how challenging it is to heat a portion of an unheated large building like that. So soon after this picture was taken, I ended up gutting this kitchen, which is the original lobby. So you'll see in a minute here how it looked after gutting it and removing that drop ceiling. This would have been the back office area just adjacent to that, which was my attempt at sleeping in there. Before I show you that, though, I want to show you the roof. So when I bought this building, it was not long for this world. It had a very leaky roof. The roof was probably about 60 years old, tar and gravel. The problem with tar and gravel is you don't know where it's leaking from. And so I had, with the help of Saskatchewan Heritage Foundation, I managed to get the roof replaced. And that really gave new life to this building. It's been bone dry in there for 2 years since the roof's been done. Pulling off the boards of the windows, found some friends or some signs of some stowaways with some birds. One of the things that I plan to do in this project is a high tea service adjacent to the, across the hall from the lobby. There's going to be a tea service, and that's going to be in the same area. It was a doctor's office. And then when it was turned into apartments, it was actually an apartment that was lived in by a well-known photographer from this area, and who's well-known throughout Saskatchewan, Everett Baker. So this door here will be at the back of the tea area, and there's going to be a patio out there with bistro sets and that sort of thing. You can see boards coming off the windows, replacing some glass. That looks shiny. Once the boards are off the windows, this is the same view that you saw before of the dark hallway. Now, all of a sudden, while I didn't have power in there yet, I did have natural light. And that really started to speed up my process of emptying out and clearing out this building. The state of some of the rooms. This room was probably the worst room by far in terms of stowaways. There was fortunately no signs of any rodents in this building, or cats or anything like that, but there was birds in one or two of the rooms, and that required a lot of cleanup. Conditions, as I said, this building is basically a survivor, and so apartments, they did. There's originally supposed to be a railing here, and they closed that in. So I've been working to undo some of their changes. Opened up. I have the original railing, and as you can see, that was one of the first things I tackled, is replacing all of the falling lath and plaster, putting up dry. And this is not water damage, this is actually fire damage. This building's been through a lot in its near 100 years, from apparently a dynamite blast. There was 3 murders in this building in 1940. Unrelated, 2 of them were, first there was a murder of a Mountie. He was shot and killed at the bottom of the stairs, and in the same place, the 2 months later, the owner of the hotel and the baker died in a knife fight, tragically. Same spot with some replaced drywall. I'll be doing some insulation and that sort of thing in the next little while, more drywalling in here. That was really important, not only to try and keep the heat in while I'm working in specific areas, but also just to stop plaster from continuing to fall on my head, because that gets old quickly. I mentioned the Continental Breakfast Tea Room. This is with its own door to the outside. A few of the treasures that I find, continue my work. You never know what you're going to find. Some of it's really exciting. This is a lot of original paperwork and that sort of thing from the hotel, and some of their other investments. Interestingly, they invested in this hotel, and then they also invested in a large amount of property in Chinatown in downtown Vancouver. So interesting to see how the difference in prices have fluctuated through the years. This is that bedroom. I pulled the drop ceiling out as I'm undoing a lot of the changes. My goal for this building is a complete and honest, true restoration to original. I'm very adamant that every feature has to be original. It has to kind of be like a museum that you can stay in. It will be a functional hotel. I've been taking all of the original brass fixed plates here for the switches and all of the original faucets and that sort of thing, and restoring them as I go. If you remember that light hanging earlier, there it is again, all shined up. One of the rooms that I'm working on, it's a single room. There's rooms of all sizes. There's single rooms, doubles, triples, and then I also have 2 suites with private bathrooms. I need to take breaks sometimes. My helpers here require that. That's part of their contract. These are my only support out here on my work, and they work for biscuits. So it's a good deal for me. That's down in Frontier, which I love, by the way. It's always nice and peaceful, and having spent so long in the city, it's really nice to get away. Most of the woodworks I mentioned is unpainted. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And what is painted, I do plan on stripping at some point. But you can see I use a beeswax, and a lot of times it'll take something like this and it'll make it look like that. There's no sanding, there's no refinishing. Again, I'm not trying to remove patina. I'm not trying to make this look like a brand new building. I'm trying to keep this thing as original as possible. Here is a project that I did near the end of the summer last year. You saw that awning there previously. I ripped that off because it wasn't original. When I ripped that off, I realized that this doorway originally was pushed right flush to the street. So I worked to undo that and return it to original. By taking that awning off, it brightened this front entryway significantly. And you can see the door pushed forward there. And there it is, all redone. So a nice shiny piece in the front of the building. I plan on doing the window frames next. That'll be the first project I tackle next month, probably. Beautiful thing about brass, solid brass, is you can polish it, and there's no downside to it. One of the original sinks that was put in there many, many years ago. This is where the museum area will be in the hotel. Some of the items that I had showed you previously in the basement will be moved up here. It'll also tell the story of the building, as well as a brief overview of Shaunavon, which at one time, I think it had the fastest growth from a village to a town in Canada, something like that. There was something about that anyway. Boomtown was the nickname. Looking down the stairs, you can see a lot of that wood trim. I've sort of just taken a bit of polish to see what kind of a pop you can get from it. This is by no means what the lobby will look like, but I threw a few pieces of furniture in there and a rug just to create an entryway for now. But it gives you a sense of kind of the grandeur that I'm going for. neat little thing like this. This is a doorway from the staff room to the hallway. And it was very nailed in place. When I managed to get the door off, there was this little piece of paper here, which was, I guess, holding the door from stopping it from rattling. And to show you again how untouched this is, I could tell it was something different. So when I looked a little closer, I noticed that it was a business card from the hotel. It's the same font, the same advertisement as originally when it was opened in 29, as well as the 3-digit phone number. Tells me that it's probably a very early business card, if not original, to the opening of the building. Little things like this, survivor features that you would never find in most buildings that were used throughout time. Glass in the bath are a male and a female toilet on each floor, as well as a bath tub room on each floor. Again, I can't plan on I will make, because I'll be adding tucked away at the back of each floor, at the back of the hall, modern bathrooms, because 100 years ago, they didn't like to bathe as much as we do now, or they didn't have the ability to bathe as much as they do now. And I think that's a demand that I can expect people to have. Toilet paper roll holder. Little juxtaposition between the state of the floor and the state of the trim. Here, I've already put a bit of polish on that that trim at the bottom of the wall there, which looked basically the same as that floor before. So you can kind of get a sense of just how some spit polish can really make a big difference. It's one of the worst floors in the hotel there, but fortunately, most of these floors are in fantastic condition. They'll need to be refinished, but they won't need a lot. And primarily, there's no paint on the floors. All of the lino was just laying down and not glued. And this project wouldn't happen without the passing away of my dear friend Coleman. So everything that I do in my life, I dedicate to his memory. And I appreciate you taking a bit of your lunch break to listen to me ramble about my project.
Well, thank you so
And
much,
that's it for me.
Kent. Yeah, thank you. And thanks for sharing that. It's such amazing work that you're doing. That's a huge project. It's so beautiful. Like you said, it's such a time capsule, which also, would it have been great to not sit empty for 40 years? But all of those little details and hidden treasures that you're finding, wouldn't be there. And that it's found the right home, as somebody that takes enjoys it and documents it and respects that. It's just absolutely wonderful to see. And huge credit to you for ensuring that this building gets a new life, and very inspiring to see. So thank you, Kent.
Thank
Just
you.
to let everyone else know that Kent is staying until the end. So if you have any questions for him about the process and things like that, or just any questions, you can just hold to the end of the presentation, or just pop them in the chat now, and we'll address them when we get to the end. So moving on to our next presenter is Lindsay Alliban. So Lindsay is the co-owner and operator of the Bethany Social Hall in the village of Hazlet. Lindsay is also a professional community and economic developer that has worked with many communities to recognize the importance of maintaining heritage buildings, as well as working with those communities to find new ways to use them. So today, Lindsay's going to share her journey with the former Bethany Lutheran Church, which is the Bethany Social Hall, and the journey from a church to a community space. So Lindsay, I will turn it over to you.
Sounds good. Can you guys see that presentation?
We can see it, and I can hear you nice and clear.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Kent. That was amazing. I've been following along on your restoration for a long while, so that's really cool to meet you the other day and today. So thanks for your presentation. You have a lot more handyman skills than me, but we are both on the same kind of journey, so that is awesome to see all the work you've done. So yeah, just a little introduction. My name is Lindsay Alliban. I live in Hazlet, Saskatchewan, which is just northwest of Swift Current, about 40 minutes, and about an hour north of Shaunavon, where Kent is located. And so I am an economic development officer for the town of Gull Lake, as well as the village of Hazlet. I'm also an entrepreneur, and I have great interest in municipal cooperation, and that's mostly what I've been working on recently is engaging in a lot of different cooperation projects in the Southwest. So we're pretty proud of the work that we're doing down here, and I saw a few names on today that have been part of those projects, so it's great to see. I am very passionate about Saskatchewan and specifically rural Saskatchewan. I have a big belief in the success and the quality of life that can be offered in our small. About me. So in my economic development career, I've seen more buildings be torn down or sit empty and dilapidated than restored, sadly. But I'm happy to say I've also been part of a few restoration projects. I learned early in my career the process of municipal designation, thanks to lots of help from Heritage Saskatchewan, including Marvin, who's on the call today. He's helped me a lot through the years. And designating important buildings in my community. And I started to appreciate some of the reasons why buildings can hold such cultural and historical value. Creating this presentation was a great reflection on many of the projects I've been part of. So in Hazlet, I started as an economic development officer in 2009, and I was just fresh out of university. You know, I was about 21, 22, didn't care much about history or anything like that, but I joined in on the Heritage Committee, which was a branch of our Economic Development Committee. My mom was on it, so she talked me into doing it. And so this group had interest in maintaining buildings locally and promoting the history of our little village. One of the buildings of interest was the long vacant Lutheran church. So you can see that here in the picture. I'm sure most of you can spot a Lutheran church. They are pretty distinct in their style and their design, especially out in the countryside. They must have had just one manual on how to build a Lutheran church back in the day. So our Lutheran church, like many others in Saskatchewan, had deep history from our community. It once sat as a general, the lumber of the building originally was a store about 10 kilometers north of our community. In the 30s, they tried to move the store to a little bit closer to what is now Hazlet. And so it was they tried to move it about 6 kilometers north of town, and it crumbled in a windstorm while they were moving it. But they took all the lumber from the building and rebuilt it into this church that you see here. And in the 50s, following the creation of our village and the boom that was happening during that time, they picked that Lutheran church, country church up and moved it into the town limits. So it has long been a gathering place of the community. When it was out in the countryside, it was a school, it was a doctor's office, it was where the community gathered for suppers. And it continued to do so in the town or in the village of Hazlet once it was moved. So once our Heritage Committee had secured a small amount of grant funding from Heritage Saskatchewan, and we gathered some volunteers, and we needed to repair some of the windows that were original to the building. So some of them had broken, some of the storm guard kind of windows were broken. I don't have the good Heritage language, but you'll get what I mean. So we fixed the windows, kind of sealed up the building again, cleaned up the space, and made some efforts to protect this building from future damage. I think I forgot to mention that in about the late 80s, the building no longer was in operation. So it just was sitting empty. And that was about 2009 that we started doing those repairs. So it sat empty for a long time. You can see some of the photos here. So it sat empty for upwards of 25 years. One day I took my friend, who you can see sitting in the left side picture. I took her for a tour of the building, and we quickly began to daydream possibilities of this space. Live music, long table dinners, and cute weddings would be perfect here. The conversation shifted, and we wondered who actually owned this building, and would they sell it? Could something be made of this space? So a short building tour turned entrepreneurial inspiration. We started to ask a few questions around town, And within a few months, we were proud owners of a 100-year-old church with green carpet, a questionably leaky roof, cobwebs, no running water, power, or heat. We thought it was a pretty good buy. So once we took ownership, we reviewed the municipal designation, which had been done a few years prior. And this designation required some protection on various architectural pieces of the building, including the steeple and the windows. And we were certain that we wanted to honor those architectural values because we thought it was an interesting building and we wanted to keep it that way for our community. You can see the lovely windows that are still in the building today. So we've spent 2 months cleaning, painting, and the fall of 2017, we held our first event. The former Bethany Lutheran Church became the Bethany Social House, a unique venue on the prairies. So you can see what it once looked like. There was also a large wooden mantle, and we kind of just took pieces down and we allowed people from the community to take different artifacts from the space if they wanted it, you know, people who had long-time Lutheran families, and we offered those back to the community if they wanted them. And some of the artifacts we kept in the space. You can see the original lights at the top, the white ones and the gold ones that are on the wall. Those were all there when we got it, and we still use them to this day. So it went from this and now it looks like this. And we've had musicians from all over Canada, the US, and even Germany come to play in our space. We started out thinking that we would have to beg musicians and artists to come to our rural location. But we were pleasantly surprised at how many musicians were eager to come from all over the country to play. At our peak, we were having 1 or 2 concerts a month. And this is in a village of 100 people. So it was quite a feat. In the beginning days, all we had for a bathroom was this lovely porta potty with a flashlight and some twinkly lights. But event interest continued to grow, even having just that porta potty. So here's a nice picture of our building in the sunset. Anniversaries, retirement parties, kids' birthdays, we basically had it all. It became
Oh, Lindsay, I think you froze. Lindsay, if you can hear me, I can't hear you. You want to just try leaving and joining again? That might help. Can everybody else hear me?
Yeah, I can
we
hear you,
can hear you,
Krista.
Okay.
Krista.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully Lindsay can hear me. I'll send her a message here. They heard me. Thanks everyone for your patience. Technical things are always in the mix, seemingly.
how long was I gone?
I can hear you now.
How long was I gone for?
So it just had frozen on the porta potty.
I just need to get back as a
Yeah,
share.
for sure. Just take your time back to your spot.
Sorry, guys.
No,
My internet cut out.
it happens.
Yeah, so there's our lovely porta potty. Is it all good now?
Great.
Okay. So there's a picture of our building in the sunset. We'll skip through some of these. We started to host lots of weddings, anniversaries, retirement parties, and kids' birthdays. And you can see the space is really beautiful, has great lighting, lovely hardwood. We removed the green carpet. It just took a fresh coat of paint, and that's basically how it was. I never have even washed the wood that's on the walls, so it was in really good shape for us. We also started having wellness retreats, and that became very popular, and highlighting the need for connection and self-growth for rural residents. We also started to notice that we had learned a lot when it came to starting a small rural business. So spin-off was, as a source of revenue for the space, was sharing those experiences to other entrepreneurs through workshops, increasing the need for more connection and inspiration here. So since 2017, you can see how we first started operating here with wooden chairs and old tables we found in various closets and the green carpet. But we've done, since then, we removed the carpet, we got a new roof covering, we started restoring the beautiful hardwood and adding a kitchen and bathrooms. We were very lucky to have the support of our community. And we've also had many family and friends help us with painting, demo, repairs. What I like to remind people of is that a little cleaning and paint, with a little cleaning and paint, we had a functioning space for creativity to flourish, and the rest followed as our momentum began to grow. A third partner bought into our venture in 2020, who specializes in catering, and we can't believe how amazing things have continued to be for the Bethany. You can see one of our popular wine and cheese pairing nights. So we love sharing the success of our project and the opportunity to replicate this idea. We hope you take a minute to check out our website and social media. As an economic development officer, I just wanted to share some of the economic impacts that this space has brought to our community. So the Bethany attracts the majority of our patrons from outside the community who come and spend their money locally and utilize other businesses here. We've inspired other entrepreneurs in our community and the region to start their businesses. And we have grown to be an event cluster. And we've been drawing in weddings from people who have no tie to our community. And they have begun to use other local caterers, rental companies, floral businesses, and accommodations locally. So that's been a really nice spin-off. Besides it being my own entrepreneurial venture, it also has spurred lots of economic activity within our community. So this is just one of the very cool restoration projects I have been involved with, and I have some more exciting ones coming up as well in the community of Gut Lake, which includes the restoration of a brick building built in 1913. This project is a community cooperative, and we are currently in the stage of selling investment shares. So you can see the original building in 1913, how it looks today, and what we are hoping it will look like in a short few, maybe just a year. We'll see how fast we can get investment shares sold. But it's surprising to me how much restoration projects I've been part of. And it's exciting to see that other projects like this exist in the Southwest already. And now I know that I can call on Kent when I need to figure out how to strip paint or any other restoration pieces of these projects. So that's our story. And I'm really thankful to Krista, who asked me to join, and for everybody for listening. Sorry for the small technical difficulties.
Thanks, Lindsay. No worries. You were super quick. That you can't control those kind of things. And that is just absolutely wonderful to see that transformation of the Bethany, and to get that such a community involvement in a community space. And like you said, highlighting the other, how that spins off onto other businesses and then other people that hear about it and want to host their weddings and other things there. So it's wonderful. And like you said, even Kent touched upon is like, what's there, what can we work with now? And, cleaning and painting and just washing things and, polish things up, can go a long way. Just showing an old building some love. And it's so wonderful that you guys shared both of those, with us. That was both of them so great. And just in a personal, note is that I'm from that area. I'm actually from the community of Gull Lake that Lindsay had showed the last building. And so right between Shaunavon and Hazlet. So I'm familiar with all of these buildings. So it's always lovely to see no matter where it is, but when you have a personal connection to those places too, it's makes you proud, and lovely to see. So I will open it up if anybody has any questions. Also, people will have my contact information if they think of question later. They can always contact me and I can pass those along to Kent. So if anyone has any questions, you can pop them in the chat, or just raise your hand, and unmute yourself. I saw one, before I get to you, Leanne. I just had seen, someone had made a comment to Kent about, how you interested in how you acquired your range of technical skills. And
Oh, well,
yeah.
fake it till you make it, I guess is it. I was an actor for a long time, so I'm good at pretending I can. I only also post when I'm successful. I usually don't post when I fail, which I could be posting every hour if I posted when I failed. But no, I mean, I guess I feel like I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. If I don't know how to do something, I won't proceed unless I figure it out. And so a big part of that is YouTube, actually. It's an invaluable source. You can just do a search for, paint stripping as an example, and watch videos until you find a similar situation to you're in, and you trust the person who's giving that advice. So a lot of it is just doing your own research and asking around, and trial and error. Mistakes is a good way to learn, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kent. Leanne, you have a question? You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, so Lindsay, I guess the question is for you. Just wondering with regards to some of the economics of it. So we have a local church here that I know they've applied to the Historic Society, and sorry, I might not be using the right word because I wasn't the one that applied for the grant. So they repaired the foundation. They've done some fundraising for the windows. But it's still a bit of a money pit. I mean, like Kent, you said, there's lath and plaster that all needs to be pulled out and needs to be re-gyprocked. And so even, with volunteer labor, there's still quite a bit of expense involved. Can you speak a little bit to how you helped? Like, did you get a loan? If you don't mind me asking, like how you guys proceeded with or either of you, I guess, with the funding of some of these projects?
Yeah, so ours was, luckily we got our building for a fairly affordable price, and so we didn't have a huge investment to start with. And ours was a business venture, so we each invested a little bit of our own money into the project, but very slowly. Like, we started in 2017 with just the paint and the porta potty, and we just started running different events that could make us a little bit of money each time. Eventually, we were able to secure a loan, and we did a loan through Community Futures, which is an organization that all communities can access. I'm not sure if yours is still a religious organization, maybe you wouldn't be eligible, but we got ours through that. We've also had some funding through. Oh, you're with Community Futures, okay. So yeah, since ours was a business venture, that helped with us. And then I've also suggested the Women Entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan as a business loan place, but in the beginning we got a little bit of funding before it was owned by myself and my partners through Heritage Saskatchewan for the windows. So unfortunately, yeah, it probably is a money pit, but if you can just pick away at it with the most important first, like Kent said, he did the roof first and kind of working his way through that. And I think that's what we did too. We started it from the top and just kind of kept working our way through it slowly.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Another question that just popped up is asking from a municipal perspective. This is from Raquel. Did either of your projects encounter challenges in dealing with municipal administration or municipal regulations? So I guess, Lindsay, you had mentioned about the being designated. I believe they're both designated. So anyway, I'll let you go. Kent, do you want to go first and then Lindsay?
Yeah, well, mine's a heritage building. I mean, in my case, that's perfect, and I'm preserving the heritage to a T, like changing nothing, including the use of the building from original. Community, like in terms of community support and everything, it's been great. Yeah, I mean, it's always a little challenging when you're dealing with a small town, and you know, I guess they have limited budgets as well, so there's not a lot of financial support available out there for projects like ours. I think Saskatchewan Heritage Foundation has been amazing to me. I couldn't have done as much as I've done without their help, but it's in terms of you know, support and that sort of thing, and find.
Sorry, Kent, you kind of it was your turn to freeze a little bit, but I think you're back now.
Oh, I was just very still. No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I thought you guys froze. Everyone was, maybe you didn't like my answer. I used to be a reporter, so whenever I didn't like the answer, I would just. I thought you were pulling that on me.
Lindsay, did you have something to add to that?
No, our municipality was fairly supportive. We knew it was municipally designated, so I basically wrote that bylaw for the municipality when I first started my job as the EDO. So I was lucky. I was familiar with that, and we wanted to preserve, you know, the things outlined in that designation. And you know, we had a few bumps in the road with some of our permits. I guess getting building permits was new for us, but we worked through that with our municipality because we added an addition with our bathrooms and kitchen. And we remained, I guess our status kind of changed from like a church to a commercial space. So they helped us through that. And we had to work with them to get permitted for a venue. So we got like a liquor permit that we could use for our different concerts and events. And the SLGA and our municipality was really good with us, which I have a good working relationship with our municipality and our councillor. So maybe that's lucky, but we haven't had any troubles.
Good. In the chat here, there's another question. There's a couple more questions, but the first one is a two-part for Kent. It says the comment, amazing projects. Thanks for documenting it so publicly. Two questions. What's the square footage of the hotel? And could you tell a bit more about how you tackled the heating of a building of that size and vintage?
I don't know the square footage. I would think probably around 15,000 square feet. It's quite big. It's a lot bigger than it looks from the street. That's the first comment I get when people go in. Because the second question in terms of heating, I'm not heating it at all right now. I strictly work on it in the warmer months for two reasons. One, I will need to replace the boiler system. I plan on keeping a steam operating and using the original steam radiators, but I don't have $100,000 in my sofa. I did check. I had about 20 cents, so I'm a little short. Not only that, but on it is there's a lot that I can do for the building before introducing heat. And getting a loan or private investors or something like that. But it will be the biggest financial hurdles I have to overcome at some point.
Great, thanks, Kent. I'm just going to read this question, and Lindsay, thank you for your answer in the chat, but just in case other people don't have the chat up, there was just a question curious about how the co-op/share model is in Gull Lake when the town owns the building. And so Lindsay's answer is that is an incorporated cooperative. We created a board and registered with ISC. The town then sold the building for minimal cost. So cooperatives first helped us with the process. So Lindsay, I don't know if you wanted to add anything that you answered it, but I just thought I would read it out.
Yeah, just that. Yeah, that model that we're doing in Gull Lake for that building, because it's quite large, like Kent's project. It's like 5,000-6,000 square feet. And so what we did was we created a board of directors. The municipality was in on the conversations when we were doing a feasibility study around this, which we also did with cooperatives first. So if anyone's looking at a community project like this, I would recommend talking to them because they can set you up with a really nice groundwork for, a feasibility study and getting a board of directors together with bylaws and articles of membership. And so the municipality was with us on that conversation, and the building had gotten turned back to them from the previous owner. And so we came up with this idea together. And then once we had everything kind of sorted and had an official cooperative started with a board of directors and a plan, then they initiated the sale to us just recently, actually. So now we're just in our investment campaign period right now, where we're trying to raise a minimum of 200,000 to get it going. And I do know that in Shaunavon that they have created a similar cooperative, but it's a different kind of cooperative, but it's for loans. So I don't know if that's something you can access, Kent, when you need it.
I don't know, but we should talk offline. I could probably use some advice there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. We have about 6 minutes. If anyone else has any questions and any more. If not, again, if you think of anything, I can. Oh, there we go. Marvin has a question.
Oh, just while people may be thinking of their last questions here, I'll just take the opportunity to say hello to Lindsay and comment.
Hi, Marvin.
Hi. And how when I first met you, I think was the first time I saw that church, and it looked so forlorn at that point, and now it looks transformed and looks so alive and quite elegant for some of the setups you had for some of your events there. So just want to give you and your partners and the whole community kudos for making that building a vibrant part of the community again. Great work.
Thank you. I was actually worried to present a little bit because we put tin on the roof and it's not historical, but I was like, that's all we could afford at the time. Well, I hope they forgive us.
Sometimes those aren't the most important things for the community. So, that's the first priority for sure.
Yeah, and what's great about this project with the two of you is that it's great to show that one, you can take a restoration approach, but also another one is a find or reuse, and designated buildings can accommodate both of those things. It doesn't have to be restored. It is great when you have an option or you have that, but it doesn't have to be. And it's about continuing use and things like that. So, and if people ever have advice on designation and things like that, they can reach out to our office on that. I don't see any other questions popping up. And there's some nice comments for you both in the chat. So just give another, I don't see any other hands.
Yeah, I'm open to anybody who wants to reach out through you, Krista, or just
I can pass
my
their
website or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. we'll just, yeah. So I guess that brings us to the end here. So huge thank you to Lindsay and Kent again. Appreciate it so much that you took the time to tell us about these great projects. Thank you so much. It's been great, and I'm glad that you two have met. Being in that you can share your knowledge back and forth. So thank you again to everybody who attended. Some of you will be back tomorrow for our presentation on archaeological investigations in the Waccamaw Valley. Then on Thursday, we'll hear about prominent Canadian sculptor John Nugent and the well-known Saskatchewan architect Clifford Weens, who designated the one-of-a-kind John Nugent Studio that's near the town of Lumsden, and it's also a provincial heritage property. So late registrations are available. So if you would like to attend those, you could send me an email or give me a call. And I am just going to pop that in the chat. And yeah, thanks everybody. That brings us to an end. And thank you so much again, Kent and Lindsay. Wonderful projects.
Yeah, thanks, Krista. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.